Ruben Amorim wants to bring in two big signings as he gives some hints into the summer transfer plans. United are linked with a 17-year-old Portuguese wonderkid in Rodrigo Mora. Napoli's sporting director is in London having talks with United over Victor Osimhen, and United are linked with a new goalkeeper from Preston. All this plus more in today's video as we run through all the latest Manchester United news and transfer news that will keep you right up to date with everything. Welcome to Man United Review. My name's Jamie. Before we get into it, smash a like on the video. Let's jump straight into it. So Ruben Amorim's been speaking a lot ahead of the derby today, but also and in that interview, I think that he's kind of given a few really insightful bits of information regarding the potential transfer window ahead that I wanted to run through and share my thoughts, but more importantly, I'd love your opinions on this in the comments. So firstly, he said, I'm not saying that we're going to win the title next year. I'm not crazy. I just want to focus on our strengths and bring one or two players, big players. I cannot manage in 4 years. We will try something. We need to be so much better. This is a massive club. So this is when he was specifically asked around, you know, is it realistic for United to win the title in 2028? And he kind of said, look, I'm not saying we're going to win it next year, but he's effectively in the interviews he's done, one in the press conferences, both the pre-released one and then the embargoed one, but also an interview that he's done on Sky. He has kind of put the pressure on himself where he's been insistent, look, I want to win the title as quick as possible. Whether that's realistic or not, you know, that's down to him. But he's like, I can only work under those kind of parameters where I'm expected to kind of win titles as quick as I can. I can't be living in for the future, which is really kind of key. And it's a big tell because if he's in a rush, then I think he'll be putting pressure on the people at the club like Jason Wilcox and stuff to maybe, you know, give them a little bit of a shake-up as well in order to kind of help him bring him in. But interestingly in those quotes, though, that he wants to bring in one or two big players. Now, just to be accurate with my reporting, though, he did stress later on in that kind of press conference. So Amorim stresses he wants one or two big players in the summer, but suggested his definition of a big player could be different to what fans expect. So he did say in that same interview, you know, big players in my mind, not necessarily big players. And we'll run through the rest of the quotes in a second, just because I think he gives a couple of bits away as well. So effectively, Ruben Amorim, the takeaway I got from that is that he's looking in his mind to bring in two big players and then potentially supplement the rest of the squad with some younger players, which is why we're getting kind of all these conflicting reports at the moment around, you know, maybe Osimhen, Cunha, for example, could be your two big players, and then supplementing the rest of the squad with some younger players and some youth players as well, which again will become clear when we go through the rest of his kind of comments as well. But again, how realistic that is, only time will tell, and we'll have to wait and see what actually happens. But he did say that big players could be, you know, he could see Delap as a big player, he could see, you know, Trincao as a big player. So his definition is going to be different to what mine is. It's going to be different to what yours is as well. And only Amorim knows what he kind of meant by saying that. He did further clarify it, though, in the embargoed section when he was asked his thoughts on recruiting one or two great players. He said, I shouldn't have said that. It's about characteristics that we don't have in our squad. I try to see the gaps we have in our squads. When I talk about great players, it's not about Real Madrid players, etc. They are great players in the way I see the game. So you can forget about, you know, Vinicius Jr. or Mbappe coming to United. For those out there that are expecting that as a summer transfer window, that's not going to happen. Sorry to burst your bubble. But, you know, was effectively saying, look, you know, it's the character, it's the gaps in the squad that he needs to fill, and that's only smart, because for too long at United we've signed players that we didn't really need, i.e. the summer where we bought Mason Mount, for example. And again, I don't want to criticise Mason Mount. This isn't a Mason Mount thing, or even Onana as well. You could throw into that mix. Did we really need those players strengthening at that particular time when we still had other issues? We still needed, you know, a striker. We still needed midfielders, and we went and bought a new goalkeeper and a number 10 that we didn't really need that summer, in my opinion. And that's the kind of mistakes that we've made in the past, where we've just seemed to have bought players in the position where you're thinking, hold on, this is the kind of weakness in the squad, yet we've spent money on other areas that didn't really quite make sense at the time. And that's what it's about with Amorim. Yeah, we have to fill the holes in the squad first before you can start looking at upgrading the other positions in the squad as well, which we do need. But you can't, you know, for this summer, you know, case in point would be, you know, do we need to really go out and buy a right wing back, as good as Kenda would have been, and as much as I wanted Kenda to come in? But realistically, You've got Ahmed that can play there, Mazraoui that can play there, Dallo that can play there. You could, and then if you look at the youth teams, you've got Mantato, who's seen as potentially one that can play there as well, and a couple of others. Is that really a smart bit of business to go out and spend £50 million like Chelsea have on Kenda, when actually we've got other areas in the squad? And that would be what I kind of think Ruben Amorim's saying there. But give us your thoughts on that in the comments. And then he also went on to say on recruitment, it's not just about big names and spending a lot of money. Sometimes a young player is at the end of his contract, and at a big club, we can use the name Manchester United to bring him in. That's also recruitment. So that kind of ties in, with some of the other stories that we've been kind of covering off recently regarding, Chido Obi is a prime example of that. Was coming to the end of his contract at Arsenal, swooped in, got him. Aiden Heaven, exactly a similar sort of thing in regarding that. Obviously, there was news yesterday on Omar Kamara from PSG that I brought to you, where the report was Sully Talks was saying that United have made contact with Omar Kamara's representatives. In recent weeks, a 17-year-old winger has been scouted for over a year now and has been on the radar for many European clubs. PSG want to sign him on a professional deal, but he is set to leave. So that ticks the kind of box of what Amorim's saying regarding, there are opportunities to go out and get these sort of players if they're talented and they're, yes, all right, they're young, inexperienced and so on. But, these are exactly the sort of players that we'd all be moaning about if we didn't go out and sign when they go on to become £100 million players in the future. And they were available for a free, because I'd sit here and moan and say, why didn't we go for him when he was not a free? And then I'd criticise the scouts for not doing their jobs properly. But we are scouting these players. It's just the direction of the club has never been to go out and try and get these sort of players in. And I'm all for it. Personally, I think it's a nice change in direction to kind of see us actually in the mix for these sort of players. But give us your thoughts on that in the comments. Like, I kind of think from the takeaway that I got from his kind of press conferences and his comments and stuff was, potentially we're looking to bring in two kind of first team ready players, whether that's Delap, whether that's Osimhen, updates on him I'll go through in a second, or Ryan Cherky, or, whoever you kind of think would be the kind of two first teamers, a Trincao, an Edison, whoever it is to kind of bring in, and then maybe look for opportunities and bring in some of the likes of like a Kamara and so on, to help kind of grow the squad and supplement the squad as well. And again, I don't necessarily think that's a negative, in my opinion, as long as they're the right quality. That's like, it's all about quality. Age is just a number. For me, it's got to be the right quality of player that we're bringing in, and if they're the right quality, then I'd be all for that as well. But give us your thoughts on that below. Now, another player that would fit within that kind of mode is Rodrigo Mora. Very, very good player. I like this kid. I think he's going to be a fantastic player in the future. Now, Ajogo, who are a fairly decent Portuguese outlet, have said that Manchester United and PSG are monitoring Mora. The player has caught United's attention. His current release clause is €45 million, but Porto are trying to raise it to between 80 to €100 million. Now, that would be a fantastic opportunity to bring in a very, very talented young player, doing really well at Porto this season. He is a player that I really, really like. Attacking midfielder, ticks a lot of the kind of boxes for me, positionally, stylistically as well. I think he looks absolutely fantastic. 30 appearances, 6 goals, 3 assists for Porto this season, which is not bad. A 17-year-old. He's 18, I believe, in May, under contract until 2027. The reason I bring in his age, for those who don't know, Premier League and FA rules said we can't sign players from overseas until they're 18, so he would be available in the summer. Now, that could be agent talk to try and get a new contract from Ajogo if they're trying to give him a new contract with a higher release clause, or could be an opportunity for United to go in and swoop in and get a young player who I think would be a really decent price because of it. I think he's got a fantastic potential. Is an attacking midfielder, can play in multiple different areas as well, but looks really creative, very good, kind of passing and yeah, I think he would be a fantastic player to bring in, and that would be one that I would be all over, especially for that sort of fee and price as well. But wait and see how that kind of develops. We've been linked with them a couple of times before as well. I remember a story, I think it was a couple of months ago, where it was saying United was scouting Moira, and I know a few of you have mentioned him in comments as well from previous videos as a player to kind of keep an eye on, but that would be really interesting. I think he would fit the kind of fit the model of what we're kind of looking for, definitely. But we need to keep an eye on that one for you. And obviously, we've got our own young players coming through as well, the under-18s. I don't know if you've seen, you might have by now, beat Leeds 13-1 yesterday in an insane display from some of our, like, we've got some very, very talented under-18-year-olds, and I do believe that there's a pathway, obviously, to the first team. We've got, reports that Mantato might be penciled in as seen as a future first teamer. Harry Amas is going to be in and amongst the squad. Chido Obi's going to be in and amongst the squad. There's reports that Godwill Kokonki is going to be on the bench today as well. Obviously, the team news hasn't been released, or squad news hasn't been released at the time of recording this video, but there are reports that maybe Amas, Kokonki, and Chido Obi might all be on the bench for the derby today as well. You've got young boys, young players like Ibrahimov, I think looks really good as well. Like, yeah, we've got some really, really talented under 18-year-olds, and none more so than this kid, JJ Gabriel, who 14 years old came off the bench for his under 18 debut and banged in a brace as well. Absolutely fantastic. He's the kid that a lot of, Barcelona, Real Madrid, all these sort of teams are trying to poach him from us. I genuinely hope we can get him under like a contract, or he stays at the club, with Amorim going back to say, look, we're Manchester United and we can give these young players a pathway to the first team, because JJ Gabriel looks an absolutely, he's in the kind of conversations with, they're likening him to Neymar and Messi, like of that generational sort of talent because of his age group. 14 years old, playing for the under-18s, coming on and banging a brace, the youngest ever to make an appearance for the under-18s, youngest ever goal scorer, and youngest ever to score a brace as well. This kid is special. I genuinely hope we can kind of keep him, because he looks like the cream of the crop when it comes to the young players, and we've got some good young players as well. So again, that kind of fits with the mold of what we're potentially looking to do, and actually give a pathway. And now I think we've got a manager that will actually give these players a chance as well, if they're kind of good enough, which is massively exciting for me. But give us your thoughts on that in the comments below. Now, one of the big name players, or the kind of top players that we've been linked with a lot recently, is Victor Osimhen. So Napoli sporting director Giovanni Manna is in London to hold talks with Manchester United and Chelsea over Victor Osimhen. Napoli are open to negotiating with United and Chelsea over a favourable fee to prevent Juventus from signing Osimhen. Now, that came from an actually fairly decent Italian outlet that are linked with Napoli and Naples. Were really accurate in the January transfer window regarding the whole kind of Garnacho situation as well. Got a large following online, fairly kind of accurate in the past, suggesting that Napoli's sporting director is in London holding talks between Chelsea and United. Arsenal's name have been mentioned amongst those as well, but the belief is that Arsenal are maybe going to get Victor Gyökeres. Gyökeres looks like he's going to Arsenal at the time of recording this video. So whether they would be in talks with Osimhen as well, maybe as a backup, who knows? But it's interesting to kind of read that they're having conversations. Obviously, can we compete with Chelsea, though? That's the kind of question mark. And do we have the money and the budget? So many question marks regarding the Osimhen kind of deal. But there's no smoke without fire. Like, there's consistent links with Osimhen in the media and in the and the reporting, like daily at the moment. I'm bringing kind of stories regarding Victor Osimhen, even though we've had, people like Ornstein and stuff suggesting that maybe it's not realistic for United. But again, are we doing this as a kind of backup so that if we get Champions League football, we have the funds available? Or is there a deal to be done with Garnacho? Remember the news yesterday was that Garnacho's secretly put his house up for sale. Could there be something in that where maybe we can do an early deal? Because the reports are with Osimhen that Napoli want to sell him, and they want to try and sell him as quick as possible. Now, if it's as quick as possible, Chelsea have more funds available than us and can probably sign him quicker than us. The only way I could see us doing a quick deal is if we sold Garnacho to Napoli. Now, Napoli have the funds available to buy Garnacho because of selling Kvaratskhelia in January, so they still have the money available to do that. So whether they would do, like a £40 million deal for Garnacho, give us the cash, and then once the cash is in the bank, we're like, right, okay, we want to buy Osimhen and spread the Osimhen cost out over 2-3 years to help us with PSR. That's plausible. That's a way around that we could maybe do the deal early, but there's a lot of moving parts in that. There's a lot of kind of ifs, buts, or maybes. But never any smoke without fire. I do still think, though, having said all of that, that Delap still sounds more likely and is more kind of, widely documented as being the striker that we're looking for because of his relationship with Jason Wilcox. And Jason Wilcox is obviously driving the kind of recruitment and being the technical director. I mean, he's the one that's kind of doing that. And apparently he really wants to get, or really likes Liam Delap. But whether we're looking at Osimhen, like I said, if we get Champions League football, or if there's a way that we can construct that deal budget-wise by maybe selling Garnacho to Napoli and doing that kind of deal, because Laurie Whitwell is very credible with United, has been saying that. Who knows? We're going to need to keep an eye on it, but it's an interesting... it's an interesting development. But yeah, I'll keep my ears to the ground to it for you. Give us your thoughts in the comments, though. Do you think that's what do you make of that story? Give us your thoughts in the comments below. Now, another position we might be looking to strengthen in the summer is the goalkeeper position. So Manchester United have shortlisted Preston goalkeeper Freddie Woodman as a summer transfer option. Now, that came from actually, again, another decent source. There was reports before that United were looking to go and get a young or an English goalkeeper to replace Tom Heaton, so i.e. a third choice goalkeeper, because it massively helps with the homegrown quota that you have to abide by for Premier League rules. So that's why there's value in having someone like Tom Heaton around, because he helps you with that kind of homegrown quota. I mean, he also is an experienced player. Apparently, he's really kind of good behind the scenes in terms of like a role model type position behind the scenes. Fantastic kind of player or person to have around behind the scenes, part of the leadership group and stuff as well. So there is a bit of value to Tom Heaton, but United are looking at maybe bringing in an English goalkeeper as a third choice, just purely to help with the kind of homegrown quota, and Woodman would kind of tick the box for that. 28 years old, English, is actually out of contract in June this year as well, so wouldn't be a costly kind of deal to do. I would worry with that one though, because we've got Vitek coming back on loan. There's talks Bayinda might want to be sold. There's talks that we maybe want to replace Andre Onana as well. So yeah, bringing in maybe a backup or a third choice goalkeeper is not the worst idea of the world. Plus, it's going to cost pittance and have zero impact on our transfer budget. Really, bringing somebody in on a free transfer as a third choice goalkeeper, not the end of the world in my opinion, but does kind of show that we are actually looking to do some bits with the goalkeeper situation. But give us your thoughts on that in the comments below. Give us your thoughts on all the other topics discussed in today's video, because that's you all up to date with the latest Manchester United news and transfer news. Smash a like on the video on your way out, subscribe to the channel if you are new. See you in the next one.